War is an algorithm. We will show its price. In 2019, $1 bought 1,500 Lebanese pounds. By 2023, $1 bought 150,000 pounds. The Lebanese pound lost 98% of its value in 4 years. A family with 75 million pounds in savings, equivalent to $50,000 in 2019, held the equivalent of $500 by 2023. $50,000 became $500, not through theft, through mathematics. This is not inflation. This is currency annihilation. War does not just destroy buildings and infrastructure. It destroys the medium of exchange itself, and with it, every saving, every pension, every store of value held in that currency. The Syrian pound traveled the same path. In 2011, the exchange rate was approximately 50 pounds per dollar. By 2023, it exceeded 15,000 pounds per dollar, a 300-fold collapse. A Syrian family with 5 million pounds in 2011, a comfortable $100,000, held less than $350 12 years later. The bomb kills hundreds. The currency collapse kills the savings of millions. And unlike buildings, savings do not rebuild. The trust destruction mechanism. They said, "Our currency is backed by the central bank and the productive capacity of our economy." They got hyperinflation, total loss of purchasing power, and the effective elimination of their currency as a functioning medium of exchange. Currency value rests on trust. Trust that the government will not print unlimited amounts. Trust that the economy will produce goods and services. Trust that inflation will remain manageable. War destroys all three simultaneously. Governments at war face an immediate fiscal problem. Military operations cost billions, but tax revenue collapses as the economy contracts. The solution is always the same: print money. The central bank creates currency to finance the war effort. Lebanon demonstrates this precisely. As political crisis deepened and the economy contracted after 2019, the Lebanese government lost access to international credit markets. Unable to borrow externally and unwilling to default, the central bank began monetary expansion. The money supply increased by approximately 400 to 500% between 2019 and 2022. More currency chasing fewer goods produces a predictable result. Prices rise. As prices rise, the currency loses purchasing power. As purchasing power declines, people lose trust in the currency. As trust evaporates, people convert currency to dollars, gold, or any stable alternative. This accelerates the collapse. Syria followed the identical path. War expenditures required financing. Tax revenues collapsed. International borrowing became impossible. The Central Bank of Syria expanded the money supply by an estimated 600 to 700% between 2011 and 2020. The pound's value disintegrated proportionally. Venezuela provides the most extreme case. Between 2013 and 2020, the Venezuelan government printed money at a pace that exceeded even war economies. The bolivar lost over 99.9% of its value. At the peak, inflation reached an estimated 1,000% annually, according to IMF calculations. This was not mismanagement. This was the inevitable mathematics of financing government operations through currency creation when the productive economy collapses. The middle class annihilation. Currency collapse does not affect all classes equally. It specifically destroys the middle class, those with savings but insufficient wealth to hedge. The wealthy convert to hard assets before the collapse accelerates. They buy real estate, gold, foreign currency, and offshore accounts. They are mobile. They are informed. They exit the collapsing currency early. The poor have no savings to lose. They live paycheck to paycheck. Currency collapse makes them poorer, but they were already poor. The increment of additional poverty is brutal but marginal. The middle class holds savings in banks. They have deposits, pensions, insurance policies, and cash reserves, all denominated in local currency. These represent years or decades of accumulated wealth, and all of it evaporates. Lebanon's middle class was substantial before 2019. Bank deposits exceeded $170 billion. The average Lebanese family held perhaps $15,000 to $30,000 in savings. Not wealthy by Western standards, but comfortable for the region. By 2023, those deposits were worth 2% of their original value in dollar terms. A family with $20,000 in 2019 held $400 in 2023. The middle class was effectively deleted from the economic structure. Syria experienced similar destruction. Pre-war, Syria had a growing middle class with bank savings, property ownership, and investment in local businesses. Post-collapse, this class largely ceased to exist. Savings became worthless. Property in conflict zones lost value. Businesses closed. The economic impact extends beyond individual hardship. The middle class provides political stability, consumer demand, and entrepreneurial capacity. Destroy it, and the economy loses its most productive and stabilizing segment. The pension apocalypse. Pensions represent the most tragic form of currency collapse loss because they are irreplaceable. A 65-year-old retiree in Lebanon with a pension of £3 million per month, adequate at $2,000 monthly in 2019, received $20 monthly by 2023. This is not a reduction in standard of living. This is elimination of income. The retiree cannot return to work. She cannot rebuild savings. She cannot wait for economic recovery. The years remaining are finite. The pension was supposed to provide for them. Instead, it provides nothing. Syria's pension system experienced total collapse. Government pensions, once sufficient for basic living, became symbolic payments worth a few dollars monthly. Private pension funds, where they existed, fared no better. The promised retirement security vanished. The economic designation for this is generational wealth destruction. A lifetime of work, savings, and pension contributions converted to zero. Not through market risk or investment loss, but through monetary system failure. The savings behavior collapse. Once currency collapse occurs, savings behavior changes permanently. People learn that holding local currency is financial suicide. This creates long-term economic damage even after stabilization. In Venezuela, the bolivar is no longer used for savings. People hold dollars, cryptocurrencies, or physical goods. Even if the government stabilized the bolivar tomorrow, trust would not return for a generation. This cripples banking. Banks cannot function if deposits flee to foreign currency. Without deposits, banks cannot lend. Without lending, businesses cannot access capital. Economic growth stalls. Lebanon's banking sector, once among the most developed in the Middle East, has effectively ceased functioning. Deposits remain frozen or subject to severe withdrawal restrictions. Trust in the banking system is destroyed. Even wealthy Lebanese now hold assets abroad. Syria faces the same permanent damage. Even if peace arrived tomorrow, Syrians would not save in Syrian pounds. The currency has no credibility. This means the financial system cannot intermediate capital from savers to investors. Economic development requires financial intermediation. Without it, growth is severely constrained. The real asset scramble. As currency collapses, those who can convert to real assets. This creates perverse economic distortions. In Syria, families with any remaining savings purchased gold, real estate, or durable goods, anything that holds value better than currency. This drove real estate prices in stable areas to bizarre levels, while simultaneously currency-denominated prices collapsed. A Damascus apartment might cost 500 million Syrian pounds, $35,000 at the collapsed exchange rate, but completely unaffordable to Syrians earning in pounds. The real asset has value. The currency does not. The two exist in separate economic realities. This creates inequality acceleration. Those with access to dollars or real assets preserve wealth. Those paid in local currency see purchasing power evaporate. The gap between dollar holders and pound earners widens daily. Lebanon saw similar dynamics. Real estate in stable areas maintained value in dollar terms, while pound-denominated prices became meaningless. Gold shops thrived while banks froze deposits. The economy split into a dollar economy and a pound economy, with the latter collapsing. The import death spiral. Currency collapse creates an import death spiral that compounds economic damage. As the pound loses value, imports become prohibitively expensive. Syria imports approximately 70% of its food and much of its medicine, fuel, and industrial inputs. As the pound collapsed from 50 Puaman to 15,000 won, the cost of imports in local currency terms increased 300-fold. A kilogram of rice that cost £100 in 2011 cost £30,000 by 2023. Wages increased perhaps 10 to 20-fold in nominal terms, but 300-fold in real cost. The purchasing power gap creates malnutrition, medicine shortages, and industrial collapse. Lebanon imports approximately 80% of its food. As the pound collapsed, food became unaffordable for large segments of the population. The UN estimated that by 2022, over 80% of Lebanese lived in poverty, not because they lost jobs, but because their currency lost value. The import spiral accelerates inflation. Expensive imports raise prices. Higher prices reduce currency value. Reduced currency value makes imports more expensive. The cycle feeds itself. The savings-to-debt conversion. Currency collapse performs an invisible transfer. It converts savings into debt repayment. Governments that print money to finance operations are effectively borrowing from everyone holding that currency. As the currency loses value, the real value of government debt decreases proportionally. The government's burden lightens. Savers' wealth vanishes. This is not accidental. It is how monetary expansion works. The government creates money, spends it, and transfers the cost to currency holders through inflation. It is taxation without legislation. Syria's government debt, which was substantial before the war, became nearly worthless in real terms after currency collapse. The government effectively defaulted through inflation. Who paid? Every Syrian holding pounds. Lebanon's government debt, once over 150% of GDP and considered dangerously high, became manageable in pound terms after collapse. In dollar terms, it remained unpayable. The government used inflation to reduce the real burden. Depositors and savers paid the price. The dollarization trap. After currency collapse, economies often dollarize, adopting the US dollar or another stable currency for transactions. This solves the inflation problem. Dollars hold value. Prices stabilize. Economic transactions become predictable again. But dollarization creates a new problem. Monetary policy becomes impossible. The country cannot control its money supply, cannot set interest rates, and cannot respond to economic shocks through monetary tools. Additionally, dollarization creates a permanent drain. Every dollar used in the domestic economy is a dollar that must be earned through exports or remittances. The country must maintain a constant trade surplus to obtain the currency it needs to function. Venezuela has partially dollarized. Approximately 60 to 70% of transactions now occur in dollars, according to economic surveys. This has stabilized prices but creates dependence on dollar inflows. If remittances decline or oil exports fall, the economy lacks dollars for domestic transactions. Syria has experienced informal dollarization. The pound is used for small transactions. Dollars are used for anything significant: rent, cars, major purchases. This creates a two-tier economy where those with dollar access prosper and those without struggle. The generational trust loss. The most permanent damage from currency collapse is destroyed trust in domestic institutions. A generation that watched life savings evaporate will never fully trust local currency again. This affects economic behavior for decades. Children who grew up during Zimbabwe's hyperinflation, where the currency collapsed so severely that the country eventually abandoned it, now adults remain deeply skeptical of local currency, even though Zimbabwe has since stabilized somewhat. Lebanese youth who witnessed their parents' savings vanish will likely hold assets abroad throughout their lives. This represents permanent capital flight. Even if the country stabilizes, capital will not return. Syrian children growing up during currency collapse are learning that money is unreliable, banks are untrustworthy, and only physical assets or foreign currency have value. This lesson will shape economic behavior for 40 to 50 years, their entire adult lives. Rebuilding trust in monetary institutions requires decades of stability. Germany took a generation to rebuild trust after the hyperinflation of the 1920s. Venezuela, Lebanon, and Syria face similar timelines. The irreversible calculation. Some war costs can be repaired, bridges rebuild, factories reopen, infrastructure recovers. Currency collapse is different. The savings are gone permanently. A retiree cannot reclaim lost pension value. A family cannot recover 20 years of destroyed savings. The middle class, once eliminated, requires a generation to rebuild. Even if Syria stabilized tomorrow and launched a new currency, the damage is permanent. The wealth that disappeared does not magically return. The family that had $100,000 in 2011 and $300 in 2023 has lost that wealth forever. Future earnings might rebuild savings, but the years of accumulated wealth are simply gone. For older citizens, there are no future earnings. The loss is total. This is the hidden cost of conflict. Not the dramatic destruction of bombs, but the silent annihilation of purchasing power. Every family with savings denominated in pounds lost those savings. Millions of people. Billions of dollars in aggregate. Lebanon's middle class held approximately $170 billion in bank deposits in 2019. By 2023, this was worth perhaps $3 to $5 billion in real terms. The difference, $165 billion, did not relocate. It vanished. Syria's pre-war savings base is harder to estimate, but bank deposits exceeded $30 billion in 2010. By 2023, the real value was under $500 million. Approximately $29.5 billion in saved wealth simply ceased to exist. The bomb destroys the building. The currency collapse destroys the money that would have rebuilt it. then destroys the money that would have lived in it, then destroys the savings that would have maintained it. This is the algorithm. 1% inflation per year for a decade reduces savings by 10%. 1,000% inflation per year reduces savings by 99.9%. The mathematics are merciless. They saved for decades. The currency collapsed in years. The wealth, gone. This is the algorithm. This is the price. Subscribe to What War Costs. We count what others ignore.